get all my bolts together here. I'm actually going to put a little never seize on these. They're going into aluminum and they're very hard to get out. So let's do that also. All right, it's mostly on. See if we can drop a couple bolts in. Crap makes a mess. My hand is silver. All right, now I got to tighten up the 4 bolts. See if we can suck this thing in nice and tight. There we go. This ratcheting wrench is helpful for this. It's smaller than the normal wrench, it fits in there better. All right, top 2 bolts are snug. I'm gonna do the bottoms. They're really hard to get to. Really hard. All right, so we got the engine mounted here. So what I got to do is figure out how all these wires go. Like this one here is clearly for the stator. On the old one, it went down here, actually like behind the dipstick. It's kind of pinched in here behind the dipstick tube. Gotta pull that out. There we go. It goes right down there. And that will plug into this wire here that comes from the stator. So let's plug that together. And then I got to figure out the throttle and choke cables. The previous owner put this spray can lid on here because he didn't have an air filter on it and it was outside. I thought that was kind of smart. He actually did a nice job. He used a big pile of shop rags here or something. Cool. Nice. So let's just take a look at what we got here. So this is definitely the throttle linkage here. It's very strange how this cable ends way back here and just has metal coming out. It doesn't make any sense to me, like it's broken. There's another cable over here, which I assume is for the choke which is down here. It's kind of stiff, but it's down there. And it looks like the choke has a lever on the side of the carb over here that cable will go through. So yeah, I assume the points need to be cleaned and everything. What I'm actually going to do is take these plugs out and put a little bit of oil in the cylinders and just crank it over a little bit, because it's been sitting. I've had it, geez, at least 5 or 6 years. So it's been sitting for a long time, and who knows how long it was sitting before the previous owner got it too. All right, so here's the problem. The tractor that we're using has no gas tank. So I said, oh, I'll take the gas tank out of the old tractor. See that big wasp flying around in there, by the way? Right down in there. The piece that goes on the front of the tractor where the gas tank would mount against is missing. So we're gonna have to cut it off the other tractor and weld it into here, I think. Hey, we're gonna run a new gas line in here. The little trick I do is I cut the head off a 1/4-inch bolt, put it half in there and half in the other one, and I'll put the clamp over the middle of them and we'll just pull it through. All right, so I got them clamped together here. We'll see if we can pull it through. The problem I have is that the old owner cut the old fuel line short. Yeah, as I thought, the clamp's not going to fit through that area. Let's try it again. All right, so it's not getting stuck on the clamp. It turns out that there was a clip on the fuel line up there, so we should be good. All right, so I got a battery pack hooked up to it. Hit the key, there's nothing, so we got to trace some electrical issues. I took both the plugs out and I just put a little bit of oil in there, and I wanted to crank it over with the oil first before we try to start it. We got a gas tank rigged up over here, just totally rigged. But I put the new fuel line in and we primed the fuel line, and I think we should be okay. What I'm actually doing now is I'm going to take this whole seat pan off so I can look at the wiring and find the solenoid and everything and see what we can figure out. All right, so I hooked my jump box right onto the starter and it won't turn over, and I quickly discovered that it's frozen solid. So we're going to attempt to take it apart here, and I bet the bushing's frozen or it's full of water or something, but we got to take this cap off and inspect. Let's see what we got. All right, so I got the end cap off the starter, and it's definitely a problem with this bushing on the top here because the thing won't even spin, so it's got to be this bushing right there. I'm going to try to grab this nut right here and twist it with like a wrench or something to see if we can free it up, but it's going to be tough. I've had this happen before and the starters ended up being junk. Wrench on here and it's turning. It's very stiff, but it's starting to turn. So the question is, if I turn it enough, will it loosen up? I put a little drop of oil in there. That's really the question, because she's locked up tight, and like you hit the battery on there, it just goes dink, 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 and that's it, nothing, you know. And anyways, I never really worked on a Kohler twin starter. This is the first time. So no different than a regular starter other than how it mounts. So yeah, that thing is tight. I can't even turn it by hand, so that does not bode well, I'll tell you that much. I have a feeling that this sucker's going to be toast. Unless I could take the Bendix drive off and take the whole thing apart and like clean out inside that bushing. That's about my only hope. And actually thinking about it, I think it is a bushing that goes through there. I think the whole bushing is spinning on the shaft, and the shaft is stuck to the bushing. I think that's what the problem is, actually. Oh well, let me screw around with this some more and we'll come back. All right, we're gonna try something dumb here to free it up. See what happens. If that doesn't free it up, I don't know what will. No, it's still pretty tight. Still binding like crazy. Huh, very strange. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that bushing is not supposed to spin, and the shaft is supposed to spin in the bushing. Alright, so I took the whole inside of the starter out, and I polished the area with some 1000 grit sandpaper where it goes through the bushing, and now it spins much smoother. I put it all back together. I put a drop of oil in there. So now we got to put the Bendix back on. And that's our next step here. And then we'll bench test this thing, see what happens. Let's try some redneck starter testing. I got my ground onto my vise, my hot up here, and let's hit the thing and see what happens. Yeah, baby. That's a good sign. I think we got her. Cool. All right, we'll put her together and see if we can get this sucker to turn over on the tractor. Awesome. Awesome. The starter's hooked back up. Let's see what happens now. Works. Cool. Nice. Very nice. I'm happy with that. Now I'll get the rest of the wires working here. And the wiring screwed up, but I can jump the solenoid with this janky wire here, and it's going to turn the starter. So just something in the key switch or the solenoid circuit here that we got to figure out. Tracing all the wires here through the circuit of the solenoid, and there's a safety switch down here for the PTO lever, and that one was unhooked, so I plugged that in and it worked. Then I'm tracing these two wires here, and I'm thinking, what the heck? A lot of times there's a safety over here in the forward reverse lever, which seems to be missing, and on the other tractor it's not there either. So I see these random wires like running down the frame, and I pull them and they just cut. So I just twisted them together, and now I've got continuity. I got this in the back of the key switch on the starter terminal, right down to my solenoid now. And if you watch, if I take the PTO off, now I've got no continuity because that switch isn't engaged. So now I'll put the PTO back to off, and it should be good. All right, so I hooked up the battery and it's working. So that's all good. Now we got to see if we can get some spark in this engine here. So I'll get my spark tester and see if it even has any spark. I doubt it. Probably gonna have to clean the points.